Did you know there's a secret rule present in all fairy tales around the world? No matter the culture, no matter the era, it always shows up. And when you discover what it is, you'll understand why so many people feel lost today. Marie-Louise von Franz analyzed thousands of stories and found this universal pattern that our ancestors coded to warn us about something crucial, something you ignore every day without realizing it. The truth is, you have an internal GPS that can completely transform your life, but nobody taught you how to use it. In fact, they taught you exactly the opposite. If you're tired of living on autopilot, if you feel like something important is missing, get ready. Because what you're about to discover now can change everything. Think about the tales you heard in childhood: Snow White, Cinderella, Jack, and the Beanstalk. All of them, without exception, carry a hidden rule that has crossed cultures, continents, and millennia. It's something so subtle that most people never noticed, but so powerful it can explain why you feel disconnected from your own life. This rule isn't coincidence. It's an ancestral code about how to live fully. And when you discover what it is, everything will make sense. Marie-Louise von Franz, one of the most brilliant minds in 20th century psychology, spent decades analyzing thousands of these stories. What she discovered goes against everything you learned about fairy tales being just children's entertainment. Actually, they're psychological survival manuals disguised as simple narratives. Each tale carries ancestral wisdom about how to navigate the complexity of human life. And there's a single rule that repeats in absolutely all these stories, regardless of where they came from. Have you ever wondered why so many people today feel lost, anxious, like they're living on autopilot? Why there's this constant feeling that something's missing, even when everything seems to be going well on the surface? The answer is hidden in this universal rule that our ancestors coded into tales. They knew something that we, in our digital and accelerated era, simply forgot. And this lost knowledge might be exactly what you need to regain control of your life. But here's what's most impressive. This rule doesn't just appear in the European tales we know. It's present in Native American stories, African myths, Asian legends. It's as if all of humanity had reached the same fundamental conclusion about human nature. Before revealing what this mysterious rule is, you need to understand the context behind this discovery that completely changed our understanding of ancestral wisdom. Marie-Louise von Franz's discovery was so revolutionary that it shook the foundations of modern psychology. After analyzing tales from dozens of different cultures, she found a pattern that defied any logical explanation. In each story, without exception, there was a sacred rule that could never be broken. Anyone who dared violate it faced devastating consequences, losing everything they had achieved. And this rule was always the same: never hurt the protective animal. But wait, before you think we're talking about literal critters running through enchanted forests, von Franz realized that these animals were much more than fantastic characters. They represented something deeply rooted in the human psyche, something that transcends cultures and eras. When Cinderella receives help from birds, when Snow White is protected by forest animals, when beauty talks with the beast who reveals itself to be wise. All these protective animals symbolize the same inner force. What makes this discovery even more fascinating is the frightening consistency of this rule. It doesn't matter if the tale comes from medieval Germany, Alaskan tribes, or villages in rural China. The message is always crystal clear. Respect and protect this inner force that guides you. Those who ignore this ancestral wisdom pay a very high price. And here's what will give you chills. This inner force has a name you know very well. This protective animal that appears in all fairy tales is actually your conscience. That subtle voice that whispers in your ear before you make an important decision. That strange feeling in your stomach when something isn't right. The ancients were so wise that they coded this psychological truth into simple stories so it could survive through the centuries. But here's the problem. We stopped listening. Have you ever lived that moment when you're about to do something and out of nowhere you feel a tightness in your chest? A strange sensation that seems to scream, "Don't do this," without any apparent logical explanation? That's your conscience trying to protect you, exactly like the protective animal in fairy tales. It's your internal moral navigation system working perfectly, even when your rational mind hasn't processed all the data yet. Unfortunately, most of us learn to ignore these subtle signals. Think about the last time you felt that inexplicable discomfort before accepting a job, starting a relationship, or making an important decision. Your conscience was there, trying to alert you about something your conscious mind hadn't picked up on yet. It's like having an internal radar that detects dangers and opportunities long before your rational brain can analyze the situation. But we were taught to trust only logic, forgetting this ancestral wisdom that resides within each of us. What's most impressive is that this inner voice doesn't just speak about what's right or wrong in the traditional moral sense. It guides you toward what's authentic for you, toward what's aligned with your deepest purpose. When you feel that inexplicable peace when making a decision, even if it's difficult, it's your conscience approving the path. When you feel that internal agitation, even when everyone says it's a good choice, it's warning you about something important. Fairy tales taught us for millennia that we should protect and honor this inner force. But at some point in modern history, we decided it was safer to follow external rules than to trust our internal compass. The result? An entire generation of people disconnected from themselves, making decisions based on what they should do, not on what they really feel is right. And this leads us to a much more serious problem than we imagine. We live in an era where ignoring our conscience has become practically a national sport. Every day, millions of people wake up, look in the mirror, and choose to be who others expect them to be, not who they really are. It's as if we've created an entire society based on false personas, where the most important thing is appearing successful, not being authentic. And your conscience? Well, it stays there in the corner, being systematically muffled by the noise of social expectations. Think how many times you've done something because it was expected, even feeling it wasn't right. Accepting that job that pays well but drains your soul, maintaining relationships that don't do you good, or following a life path that others planned for you. Your conscience was screaming, "Stop!" but you chose to listen to society's voice that said, "This is how things work." The problem is that this silent betrayal of your inner voice comes with a very high price. The result of this disconnection is devastating. Chronic anxiety, depression, constant feeling of emptiness, as if you were living someone else's life. It's that feeling of always chasing something, but never knowing exactly what it is. Thousands of people successful on paper feel like failures inside, because they're living according to a script they didn't write. They've hurt their protective animal so much that it almost stopped trying to communicate. But here's what's even more concerning. When you stop listening to your true conscience, you open space for much more dangerous voices to take control. Voices that know exactly how to manipulate you, how to convince you that wrong is right, how to turn your insecurities into destructive decisions. And this is a trap that few can identify until it's too late. Here's where things get really dangerous, and few talk about this. There's an inner voice that disguises itself perfectly as conscience, but is actually your worst enemy. It whispers seductive justifications for your most destructive impulses, turning revenge into justice, selfishness into self-love, cowardice into prudence. Carl Jung called this force false conscience, that voice that manages to convince you that you're doing the right thing, even when you're destroying your life. And what's scariest is that it speaks exactly in your own voice. Imagine an executive who fires employees unnecessarily, but convinces himself he's optimizing the company. Or someone who cheats on their partner, but justifies it as seeking personal happiness. False conscience is a master at transforming destructive impulses into noble narratives. It takes your fears, your frustrations, your deepest insecurities, and dresses them in virtue's clothing. That's why so many people do terrible things thinking they're right. Jung discovered something that can save your life. There's a fundamental difference between true conscience and false conscience. The true one always brings a lasting sense of peace, even when the decision is difficult. The false one brings immediate relief, but leaves a bitter taste that only gets worse with time. One connects you with who you really are, the other takes you further and further from your essence. One gives you courage to face the truth, the other offers comfortable excuses to run from it. The technique Jung used to distinguish between them was surprisingly simple, but revolutionary. When you're confused about a moral decision, when two inner voices are fighting inside your head, there's a foolproof strategy to discover which one is lying. And this strategy can be the difference between building an authentic life or wasting your best years following an inner imposter. Jung's technique is so simple it might seem obvious, but it's revolutionary in practice. When you're facing a moral dilemma, simply slow down. Stop everything you're doing, take a deep breath, and give time for your unconscious mind to process the situation. False conscience is always in a hurry. It wants you to act on impulse before reason or true intuition have time to manifest. True conscience, on the other hand, is patient. It waits for you to be ready to hear its message clearly. Let's put this in practical terms. Say you're considering accepting a job proposal that pays very well, but something internal bothers you. Your false conscience will bombard you with rational arguments. You need the money. It's a unique opportunity. Everyone would do this. But if you stop, breathe, and really listen to your deeper voice, you might realize that discomfort comes from values that will be compromised, from a toxic environment you intuited, or from a path that will take you away from who you want to become. Another example, you're in a relationship that doesn't do you good, but you're afraid to end it. False conscience will convince you it's lack of gratitude, that you'll never find anyone better, or that it's cruelty to hurt the other person. Your true conscience knows that staying in an inauthentic situation hurts both people involved. It will give you courage to have difficult conversations, to be honest about your feelings, even if that means uncomfortable changes in the short term. The key question you should ask in any important decision is, am I hurting my protective animal? If you feel that weight in your chest, that internal agitation that doesn't pass, it's your conscience alerting you. If, on the contrary, you feel deep peace, even facing a difficult choice, it's a sign you're on the right path. Your conscience is literally your most reliable moral GPS, but it only works when you stop running and really pay attention to the signals. Now comes the moment of truth, and here, there's no more theory. It's time to put all this into practice in your real life. Stop for a moment and do an honest analysis. Is there at least one area of your life where you know, deep down, that you're betraying your conscience? It could be at work, where you accept situations that go against your values. It could be in a relationship where you're not being authentic. Or maybe it's a decision you've been postponing for months because your inner voice knows what the right answer is, but you're afraid of the consequences. Choose one specific situation. Don't try to solve everything at once. Identify that decision you've been avoiding, that conversation you need to have, that change your conscience has been asking for a long time. It could be something seemingly small, like saying no to a commitment you don't want to take on, or something bigger, like changing careers or ending a relationship. What's important is that it's something real, concrete, that you can act on today. Your conscience already knows what it is. You just need the courage to admit it. Here's what will happen when you finally honor your inner voice. At first, it might be uncomfortable. Some people might not understand. They might even question your choices. But right after, you'll feel something you might not have felt in a long time, a deep sense of relief, of finally being aligned with yourself. It's like a weight you didn't even know you were carrying is lifted from your shoulders. This is the feeling of stopping hurting your protective animal. The difference between people who live authentic lives and those who feel lost isn't in talent, luck, or opportunities. It's in the courage to listen to and follow your conscience, even when it's inconvenient. Your future self, the one you'll be in 5-10 years, is rooting for you to make that courageous decision today. Because every time you honor your conscience, you become stronger, more confident, more connected with who you really are. And that, my friend, is what really transforms a life. So, can you feel your conscience nudging you right now? I bet while watching this video, at least one situation from your life came to mind. That decision you've been postponing, that no you need to say, that change your inner voice has been asking for a long time. In the comments, tell me, what's that one decision your conscience has been asking for and you've been avoiding? Here's my final challenge. 5 years from now, do you want to look back and be proud of the courageous decisions you made, or will you regret the opportunities you lost out of fear? If this content touched something deep inside you, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to keep learning about how to live a truly authentic life. Because we'll continue exploring these truths nobody tells you about psychology, self-awareness, and personal development. And since you made it this far, there's a video in the end screen that will show you exactly how to identify when you're being manipulated by false conscience. Don't miss it. Your journey back to authenticity is just beginning.